Hi everybody, welcome to video 5 or 6 of some leadership development stuff. So this one I think is going to be a fun video. It's about team members fighting and just verbally taking off the gloves and duking it out. And this is an area where there's book after book after book after book written about it, but it's not really a template that applies to a restaurant environment. So I'm more going to shoot from the hip on this one and tell some stories and talk through a little bit of experience and leave it up to you to fill in the gaps. So here's the situation. You're sitting at your table, you're enjoying your hamburger, you're reading through Fox News or whatever on your phone, not an endorsement for Fox News, and someone on your team abruptly enters your space and starts spouting off how upset they are with Michelle because she fill in the blank. She never charges the walkie-talkies, or she doesn't communicate well, or whatever. She didn't wash her hands after using the restroom. So likely this has been an ongoing thing. What's funny about kids and adults is kids will call out poor behavior. 6-year-old says, I saw my 4-year-old brother do this before the other brother can even finish the action that he's doing. Adults will typically see something and then they'll decide, I don't like that. And instead of having that conversation with the person, they'll just stew on it for 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks, and they start to get more and more upset. So when that person enters your space, you start to hear words like, well, Michelle always X, or Michelle always Y. And that's one of the first indicators for me. So I don't want to be the guy on the leadership team who just absorbs all of the drama and who tries to moderate between angry parties. So I got to the point where I always asked, I'm getting a phone call, that's cool, where I've always asked, well, have you talked to the person about it? Have you told them that they left chicken goo all over the floor, or they didn't wash their hands, or they didn't count their money the right way, or they left their area a mess? And my experience, probably 94% of the time, the person who just erupted into my space goes, well, no. Should I do that? So as a leader, you get to coach through this. The answer is, of course you do that. Your leader is to create vision and cast vision and hold people to that vision. Your position within that restaurant organizational structure is not to just put out small fires because people don't communicate well. But let's say it is something bigger. Right? So let's say that there's an accusation of theft. So someone's drawer is always $20 short. Whatever. There I go. I'm saying always. Funny. Human nature. But do some pre-conversation fact-finding. So before you enter into a conversation with this person who might be completely blindsided by this accusation, what systems or what structures do you have in place that will allow you to confirm or deny this allegation? So whatever you do in your fact-finding stage, it depends on the accusation. So if someone's drawer is always $20 short, well, maybe look at the drawer logs. If someone, doesn't chop lettuce the right way, well, maybe periodically check on their salads or the products that have lettuce in it. What you should not go around doing is inciting gossip by asking other team members what they saw. So, hey Rachel, you work with Michelle a lot. How does she do her lettuce? Don't open that door, because no one's ever going to say, wow, she's the lettuce queen. She does a great job. I wish I could be more like her. It's always going to be, wow, here's my opportunity to shine and look better than Michelle. Yeah, Michelle stinks. She's terrible. And then as a leader, what do you have? You're sitting down with Michelle and going, hey, the team says you stink at lettuce. You're not being an effective leader. So stay away from asking the team members. Maybe go to a trusted neutral leader who might have responsibility over that group of people, but keep it very, very kind of hush-hush. Again, you're not going to go and gossip to the team, but is that other leader going to go and gossip to the team? Maybe. Some of the most embarrassing conversations I have are when I sit down with a group of team members and they say, well, Chris, we knew this was coming, and we've built our case already against you because I let it slip. The gossip wheel started turning. Not a good situation. So I've always found it useful to look through some camera footage privately or casually check up on systems, checklists, cleaning assignments. And I would just say, don't do this when the team member's around. if Jessica is making a salad, don't pop open a salad and be like, hey, let's look at your lettuce. That's not cool. Don't do that. You're just, again, you're looking for a problem at that point. So the ultimate goal of this fact finding is to get into a conversation with the accuser and the accusee. I'm never going to sit down and say, well, this person told me that you whatever. That's not your role. That's wildly inappropriate. It's going to be bad if you do that. But before you sit down with that, know your facts. Know the hearsay. You should know the maybe facts. So I remember one time we used to have these giant warming drawers in my restaurant. And there was this allegation that team member A would only open the warming drawer if team member B was standing right in front of it. So the metal drawer would hit team member B's shin, causing deep bruising. So that was a provable fact. So I thought. I didn't have camera footage, but you know what? Team member B rolled up her leg and showed me her giant purple bruise. So I thought, well, shoot, this is easy. I can have this conversation. I'm going to tell team member A, don't open the door and injure other people. Not cool. Well, I tried that approach. So team member A promptly said, nope, I don't do that. You can't prove it. She got that injury elsewhere, and now she's blaming it on me because my sister is somehow related to this person's family, and there's this war that's been going back generations. Therefore, I hate her, she hates me. You've got nothing, and the situation just exploded. So all of that based on an assumption. Now, had I had camera footage, easy. Hey, what, team member A? Look, this is camera footage of you doing this. Don't do that again. That's easy. That's irrefutable. Prepare yourself. Also, a little bit redundant that I say that, but know any relevant policies. So folks, they have an idea that sometimes these conversations are going to happen. Team member B might see team member A approaching you, and you could be talking about the weather, but you know what? B is going to assume A is ratting out B for something. So people are going to come with some form of defense. But know your policies. Is there a unit handbook you can reference? Is it in violation to a policy, or is this one of those gray area, it's just not a cool thing for you to be doing this, so let's alter this behavior a little bit. Is it one of those things? And know that oftentimes before the bottoms even hit the seats, these team members are going to come out swinging. Because again, we're in always and never land, right? These things have been going on for weeks or even months sometimes. It's important, as you can, respectfully, to remain in control of the conversation, and set the tone as you get started. I've always found it best to set some ground rules. And I often served as a debate moderator. So those ground rules would be, hey, Kelly and Johnny, the real creative name, right? So Kelly and Johnny, we're here to talk about this. Look, before we say anything, here's how this is going to go. So Kelly came to talk to me. Johnny, I don't want to just throw you under the bus. I want you to have a voice in this too. My goal is for us all to work together, have a very real conversation, and then be able to move on, work together amicably in the future. So there's that. So setting those ground rules is super important. That way people know what to expect. It also puts you in control of the conversation. And something that I've learned over time is, even if it was my team members, right? So this is my person, I'm directly overseeing them. Sometimes I'm just not the best person to have that discussion. So I'm not afraid of too many discussions, but I speak English. That's my primary language. I've picked up some Spanish over the years. But if I'm entering into a conversation with two Spanish-speaking middle-aged women, I'm not Spanish speaking, I'm not middle-aged, I'm not a woman, I'm not the best person to have that discussion. So I would, in the past, bring in someone who could better communicate with them, either a translation service or someone a little bit closer to that, yet still able to keep professionalism there. So I didn't go and attack every conversation I had. So when I was doing this for a living, I was young 30s. If there was an issue with a 14 or 15-year-old, I'm staying away from that. Pretty much anyone under 18, I am staying away from. I don't want to be alone at a table with someone who is a minor, not because I couldn't do it, but I just wasn't the best person to have that discussion. So small tangent there, apologies. But during the discussion, so when you're having these conversations with people, the hearsay, it doesn't matter. Stick to your facts. What can you prove? What is on camera? What's in the chicken thaw log? What's in the cash register? Who was the last person to sign it? Whose manager card was swiped to issue this $12 refund for whatever? And so sometimes your facts, though, can be that Kelly feels like you disregard her, or she feels something. And it's really hard to articulate that. And it's hard to do it in a way that is valid and conveys just how important it is to, I guess, the attackee from the person who is feeling everything. So feelings, they will always come up, and the team members will usually shy away from fact and focus on feelings. So this isn't your territory unless you're a licensed counselor, in which case I should be watching your video on this. But the important thing there is always guide toward the solution. So a really good way of doing that would be, hey, Jason, Kelly told me that you said this. It was very, very harsh. Do you remember that? Jason goes, well, yes, I do, or no, I don't. Well, if it's yes, I do, usually the answer right after that is, but I was in a hurry. Okay, I understand that. I appreciate, Jason, you were in a hurry. I know you're trying to get cars through the drive-through. That goal tonight was 100 cars an hour, right? We got 94. That's awesome. One of those unexpected things was Kelly had a meltdown because she felt like you were super mean to her. And at that point, he's going, oh, that's not good. And Kelly's going, yeah, that's right. That's exactly what happened. And so no one's in the wrong. It was just one leader was way too intense, and the person who was on the receiving end of that intensity did not match that intensity, or had a number of other things going on in, I guess, Kelly's life at this point, and that was just the straw that broke the camel's back and caused a meltdown. So oftentimes stuff like this is purely accidental, or purely just in a hurry, and or other stresses, the phone ringing, machine beeping, kitchen's on fire, whatever, all those things are going on in the communication there. While it was effective, it was also curt and short and hurtful, even though it wasn't meant to be. Now, on the other side of that coin, maybe Jason, I think that's what I named that guy, he goes, no, I don't remember that. Okay, well, this is how she felt about it. Can you see how communicating that way could hurt someone? And then it just goes into a coaching thing. So, and we're going to push this meeting forward, and I don't want people to leave feeling like, wow, I lost, or he lost, or yeah, I got him. You know, we don't want that. We want both parties to be able to work together toward a solution, and then be able to work together. Now, something that makes restaurant leadership so different than, say, corporate leadership is in a corporate environment, you go in, you have your 15 minutes with HR or whoever that person is, and then they say, do this, do this, do this, don't do this, don't do this, don't do this. That's been my experience with that. And then none of those parties see each other for 5 months. In a restaurant, it's, hey, that was a great productive conversation. Hope you got what you needed to get from it. By the way, lunch is starting, so all hands on deck. And before you know it, you're working literally shoulder to shoulder with the person who you just had this huge disagreement with. So as you're moderating these conversations, remember, you're always there to fix the future, not point fingers at the past. So sometimes it's asking the question, what do we need to see to continue working together? Now, I realize in this video, it hasn't been a lot of step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4, more just stuff to keep an eye on. And I actually super deviated from my script there, but that's okay. I'm a fan of making sure everyone in that discussion speaks their piece while keeping tempers in check. So you're a presidential debate moderator, right? You're the one saying, that's great, thank you, let's calm down a little bit. There have only been a couple conversations in my many years of doing this where I've had to really be forceful to reestablish control. And that was modeled for me by one of my earlier GMs, where he was talking to two sisters who worked together every day. And it was one of those situations where they went to work together, and then they went home together, and then they lived life together, and then the next day they were back at work together. So they were just always irritating each other. There we go again, the word always. And so I remember being the nonpartisan person just there kind of taking notes, which I recommend you have a completely neutral party to take notes and make sure the points that need to be said are being said. But I remember this guy saying, while they were just yelling at each other, he finally said, "Stop! Stop! This is not how we have discussions. The two of you are sisters outside of this workplace, and you are co-workers in this workplace. We're going to figure this out and work together." And they just completely, they didn't know what to do with themselves after he got not aggressive, but vocal enough to where they could hear him. The first few attempts he was saying, "Okay, hey, stop, please stop." And he kept escalating to the point where he had to be aggressive and somewhat forceful with his tones and whatnot. So this should go without saying. So, hey, you ran a great meeting. This is awesome. We didn't give hugs at the end, but we agreed to work together, and we're going to go and we're going to sling chicken and serve guests, and it's going to be super cool. All eyes are still on you. Just like when you were sitting in the dining room with your 2 or 3 other people, every set of eyes behind the counter or every other team member was staring at that conversation, looking at you. They're looking for animation, they're looking for yelling, they're looking for people getting flushed or emotional. So all eyes are still on you immediately after this conversation. If you beeline it to wherever your fellow leaders are clustered and then just start decompressing about what just happened in that conversation, you're going to lose a lot of clout and a lot of respect with your team. So you did your thing, and it's important what you did, and it's important that you communicate in some cases with the rest of your leadership team. And maybe that's hey, team leader whatever, Slagathor, let's make sure these two don't work shoulder to shoulder for a couple weeks. Let's do our best to accommodate that. But even when you're having those good discussions with your team, it's awkward for the team members who were just involved in your discussion outside or in the dining room or whatever. So wait until the shift change. Wait until people go home. Just do that. It's polite, it's nice, and you're not going to embarrass anyone, because you know what? Rachel, she's been in the dining room crying her eyes out. She's embarrassed enough. You don't need to make a big spectacle out of her to the rest of the team, because my experience again says people get up from the table, first question is, well, who got fired, right? That's what the rest of the team is thinking. Or if someone clocks out and goes home early, well, they got fired, obviously. And that's the kind of stuff that you want to not bring in. You don't want that rumor mill turning. Otherwise, it's, oh man, Chris is going to sit down with me. I must be getting fired. Not good. And that is starting that conversation at a huge, huge disadvantage. So again, this isn't everything. It's not comprehensive. Maybe I could write a book, but there are so many if then that. You need to have a high emotional intelligence, give yourself plenty of time, do your fact finding, know your facts, be able to relate to people and their needs, their desires, and just what they need to be fulfilled as a person. Not everybody wants to work on an assembly line. Some people do. Not everybody wants to be jovial and have fun at work. Some people do. And so it really helps me to learn the people before I start trying to lead them, especially through conversations like this. You can't always do that, but what you can always do when you sit down is be understanding, do your best to serve as a translator between someone who's super emotional and someone who's super not, someone who's super logical, and really paint the picture for both parties that, maybe it wasn't meant to be an attack on you. Maybe you had a high stress day and this person just put some coal on the fire and that made you just implode upon yourself. Maybe, I don't know. But the more you become just emotionally aware and emotionally intelligent, and the more experience you have doing this sort of thing, then the better off you're going to be. So I hope that's helpful. I hope somebody finds that helpful out there. And I just want to reiterate one more time, restaurant leadership is tough. You get put into weird situations. There's always the pressure of the the ticking clock to get stuff done and get stuff done rapidly. So times like this, take your time, breathe, do your preparation, have a great meeting, have a great discussion with people. And then ultimately, you're there to enrich their lives and to run an awesome, productive business. When that business is awesome and productive, you are making it so those people can retain their jobs and continue to provide for their families. So as a leader, you've got a moral obligation to do this and do this right. So no pressure, but I appreciate your viewership, and we'll see you next time.